Here. I'm here with Tom Arduino and really looking forward to this talk. Love talking about leadership. And today it's all about talking about effective leadership in the post pandemic era, the old ways, and then the new ways that actually work. So, welcome, Tom. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Likewise. Nice to see you again.
Likewise, brother. Absolutely. So, real quickly, Tom, give us a bit of backstory. I want to give people a bit of context as well. Give us the 30-second 50,000 foot view of who you are. How'd you get here? What do you do?
Yeah. Thank you for we connected via LinkedIn. I'm very excited to be here today. My background spans across 20 years in financial services with some of the leading financial institutions such as Discover, HSBC, Capital One, Synchrony, and been in the area of marketing, client-related marketing, driving marketing initiatives for clients, running the strategy, driving the execution, and managing a series of cross-functional teams, both in the United States and globally.
Very cool. Very cool. And again, so today is all about leadership, which is really, really cool. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. So let's talk about some of the old ways. Let's start off with some of the old ways that no longer work and leading. Because again, you're an amazing leader. You seek to lead and give your best. And I think some of the things we talked about were amazing. So let's talk about maybe some of the things that don't work anymore. What are some things you find that do not work anymore and some people to stay away from?
I think the leadership, the core values of leadership, I believe, are still intact. Leaders have to present the vision, articulate, and carry on the strategy, and make sure the organization follows in suit.
Mhm.
But I think it's changed a little bit is the aspect of people that are feeling valued, and there's some empathy that has to come from the leader. It's difficult because it's not necessarily the employees are not asking for a pat on the back, but as we engaged in the beginning of our conversation, pre-pandemic, there wasn't as much going on in the world. It was somewhat normal. The Great Resignation didn't happen. COVID didn't happen. Remote was kind of happening, but not happening. Now, when you shift to post-pandemic, it brings in a lot of different uncertainties, such as health, COVID, such as remote, can I go in an office that's safe, such as family, can I take time to be with my family, and all the aspects that come from a leader that weren't in the old set of leaders' values and ethics and in stability. So what the leader today has to think through is how can I be empathetic to a person who's been loyal or is a good worker or is a high talent, that I can show that person what they mean and how I value them in the organization.
Very cool. Very cool. And you're right. It's having people feel like they're valued and not just a cog in the wheel, or not just some little part of a big system, and they're actually a real person. I think that's one of the complaints I hear when I'm speaking or talking with people is that people don't feel like they're actually a person. It's just a number, or it's someone who makes the numbers, who generates numbers, which is interesting.
Yes, exactly. I think it's a little bit harder to walk the walk and talk the talk when it comes to actually showing that you're empathetic for an individual,
Mm.
because the leader is so focused on driving the company and hitting the business objectives. But there is a way that you can engage with talent and employees in a way that makes the leader vulnerable, have some humility and show some, like I said, some care toward the current, whether it be economic, world, health, or global situations we're facing. Even today, right, with the war, that's also pressing if people have, potentially families, friends, or anyone that they know. And there's a lot of things that are weighing on the employee's mind. And the leader of the future has to be conscious of all of this.
Say that one more time. Your mic's it's kind of like muffling, and then it's clear, muffling, clear. Say that last part again, please.
Yeah, the leader just has to be conscious of all of the different ideas that are coming through in a way that promotes a positive workplace.
That's a fair point. Fair point, indeed. Actually, what would you say then? What do leaders require? What is a new? You've heard it called leadership 2.0. You've heard it called post pandemic leadership. What are some of the best practices now that we've talked about some of the things that don't work? What are some best practices of leadership that you found really works now in this new, remote slash hybrid slash occasionally coming in, and never mind that the mental health has been going on. I mean, 2.5 years of all this craziness has been affecting people. Talk to us about that, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some ideas that the leader has to take with him as they go forward. And I've worked for some really, successful, incredible leaders in my tenure. And what I've noticed is vulnerability, being transparent. And certainly it's very difficult. Public companies have to be somewhat transparent. But as a leader, being transparent of where the business is going, being transparent of how employees are impacting the business, especially when it comes to potential downsizing or anything to that matter. I think also, as I mentioned earlier, humility, being, accessibility is difficult, but there's ways that leaders can show humility in a way that promotes the fact that they're accessible. And, last is care. We talked about it in terms of empathy. Care is just being able to know that the employee feels safe, secure, confident that that company is there for them and will have them, in the right position and safe and secure. When we first got into the pandemic, was on a strategy session with two leaders from Fortune 500 organizations. And the leader on the left said, the only thing that I care about in March of 2020 is that my people are safe, sound, and secure. And healthy. That's it. That's all I care about. And the leader on the right said, I agree with you. It's a completely different world now. Yes, we're trying to have numbers, but if we can't make our employees feel safe with the pandemic, or at least provide an environment that they can come in if they have to come into work that's safe, then we need to evaluate our positions. And I took that, it goes a long way because as the leader's forced with attaining these incredible business, goals and making very difficult business decisions. To hear from the leader to say that they're very interested in one thing with people makes a big difference in morale.
Agreed. Agreed. Especially when they walk the talk, they actually mean it, and they walk the talk versus talk the talk. A real quick thing. Down on your right, the gear icon. You might have maybe try the microphone in your webcam because it's still fading in and out. Sometimes I hear you crystal clear. Sometimes it's muffled. And these are amazing points and amazing things. Yeah, gear icon bottom right, and then if you click on audio in the little box that comes up, it may let you have a different mic. Maybe there's the USB mic or a different mic that might be helpful. You're saying some great stuff. I want to make sure we hear you. That's for sure. No rush, by the way. Yeah, it's interesting too because I think a lot of the companies now that get it, they say, our number one asset is our employees. A lot of people say customer first, but a lot of companies now that get it, they say, the number one thing is our employees. Yes, we wouldn't be here without the customers, but we actually definitely wouldn't be here without the employees, without our teams. And so I think it's really cool you said that, and having people safe, feel safe, know that they're number one, know that they are cared for, and that people do care about them. And like you said, making sure people know, but also making sure that leaders walk the talk. And I find this interesting. A leader that walks the talk and does the doing is very influential. I think it was GE. I can't remember which company it was, some big company, and they're a world-class organization. And the CEO walked around the building, and there was clutter everywhere and garbage and things around, and it was just cluttery and not a world-class office environment. So every day he went around with a garbage can and started picking things up and tidying and organizing. And pretty soon people saw him do this, and this is how we can often lead by example. And even if we're worried about how to lead, just do your best, lead yourself first, because other people are watching. And of course, soon enough, other people were picking stuff up too, and he was going around, but there wasn't much to tidy up, not much to clean up, because people had seen him do it. Yeah. And they were able to get inspired by him, and then, okay, this is and real leadership, right? Take responsibility for what may not be your actual responsibility, or maybe what you may not be seen to be responsible for. But I agree that I think one of the facets of real leadership is that taking responsibility, whether you do it or not. I mean, you have certainly delegating as a leader, but taking responsibility to make sure outcomes you want and things get done or achieved.
Absolutely. I'm hoping you can hear me a little bit better now.
Let's see. Keep talking.
I'm hoping you can hear me a little better now.
It's we'll try this. We'll try this one. Not it's a little better, but let's try this one.
Okay.
What are some other? And I love this that what you're saying about the new leadership or leadership 2.0, whatever we're calling it. What else though? What else can things people do? What else do leaders need to know about this post-pandemic world and how to make sure we don't demotivate people by saying no, you got to come in the office, no more work from home, you got to come in, you got to be centralized, or whatever. How do we make sure to lead effectively, but also give people still having freedom, because that's one of that's it's higher than pay. People want freedom and autonomy more than pay as well.
Yeah. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm hearing a slight echo.
Yeah, a little bit of an echo, but it's okay.
Let me just-
I know I have like three different microphones. I got my laptop mic, which is down there, so sometimes it defaults to that. I got my blue Snowball blue mic here, which I love, amazing podcasting mic. And then I have the webcam has got its own USB, and sometimes it's like which one do I use? Which one's most optimal?
Okay, one sec here.
No worries, no worries. It's interesting
Okay.
too. Oh, go ahead.
So I think what's kind of really important as we go forward with leadership is like I was mentioning, understanding that people are making decisions now that if it doesn't suit their style, they're making decisions to move forward in a different way. But I think the leaders have to take all of that into consideration when they're talking to employees, when they're leading employees, when they're delegating, when they're driving articulating the vision of the organization. And what I mean by that, simply put, is in the past, leaders would dictate the vision, would drive the objectives, and roll out the plan and execute. Today, workers might be forced to stay from home because there's a safety issue, or there's a family person at home that needs care. Possibly, work is done on off hours. I think the effective leaders of the new post-pandemic, the 2.0 that we're calling, have to be sympathetic to that. They have to be flexible. Yes, the work has to be done, but does the work have to be done with the context of 8 to 5 business day?
Mm.
And that's a big, decision and a big turning point. There's a lot of conversation around, are we going to move to a 4-day work week? There's a lot of conversation around, is it mandatory to be sitting in front of someone in an office? You lose space time, this ability to interact with others. I think the leaders of the future have to adopt a different strategy, a flexible strategy that allows the workplace to be effective from all different areas of the country. But at the same token, they still have to bring together people so they don't lose that face-to-face interaction, which is really key to building, thriving, growing, and advancing relationships.
I would agree. I think you're right. We have to have some, whether it's I remember the sales kickoffs back at IBM, or the New Year kickoffs, and different events they had as well. I think you're right, bringing people together, especially in person when you're going to have people remote, which I think is the flexibility to both is, I think, very, very important. Some people have kids screaming at home, or they prefer to go in the office. Great. Some people prefer to work at home because, like you said, they can work in the morning and they still need to do some work in the evening, but then they can take care of their family around dinner time. And it just makes sense. They're a better employee, better performing, they're better at home, and they're less stressed. So I think you're right, that flexibility and but also still having people engaged and in the loop and interacting. I used to love going down and meeting my colleagues, my clients, different employees, people all over the US and Canada. It was amazing going to see people and the energy, especially after working with someone for a while and connecting, and then you get to see them in person. It's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic point, because the leader has to cross both paths and dot both of those I's. One side is there's a person and a worker who wants to work from home. They've been accustomed to the new way of work. There's hours, there's family, there's children, etc. The leader has to be adaptable and flexible and understanding of that. Second is the other side, which is the aspect of people that want to come in. They don't want to work in their home base. There's dogs, children, maybe there's activity they can control.
Sure.
So they want to, the leader wants to be able to acknowledge that, provide a safe, secure setting in a way that engages, a positive workplace environment.
Agreed. And it's something flexible because there, again, a lot of, especially with millennials as well, but they desire flexibility more than anything really. Be able to, they want to work like, I'm fortunate being an entrepreneur. I can work from Costa Rica in the winter, or Spain, or Italy, or something. I work in the cottage all summer. I'm very, very appreciative to that. And I think people are also wanting that in a corporate organization, working for someone else. I mean, if you're slacking and you're gonna mess around, that's a different story. But if you're a, driven, hardworking employee, I think it's a great reward to say we trust you and we're going to give you this autonomy. And yes, if you get stuff done, if you want to work from the cottage, that's cool. Or Spain, that's cool as long as you get the stuff done. I mean, really in a virtual world now. I mean, if someone's sitting at home 3 miles or 20 miles or 50 miles from work, or 3,000 miles, or in Spain or wherever, what's the difference as long as they do a great job? And I can almost promise you they'll do an even better job because of they're more relaxed, they're happier, they're not having to commute in or be in a certain place. And of course, I think they're going to be grateful as well that they can do that. And I think
Sure.
people stick around for that. I've seen people stick around for that more than raises like a $10,000 to $20,000, like a recruiter reaching out, hey, $10,000 to $20,000 extra. I've seen people stick around for that, sticking around during hard
Yeah.
times for the flexibility, and just a great leader in general. Not just the flexibility, but just a great leader in general.
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, I mean, post-pandemic is facing, leaders have to face new challenges and new obstacles. There's people that I've talked to at former organizations that have said, you've handed me this ability to work from home, work on a remote basis. If I'm asked to come back in the office, I'll quit. I'll walk away. I'll find a new position. On the other side, like I said, that what would a leader do in that position? There's great talent out there that doesn't want to come in. At the other side of the coin, you've got people that actually want to come in, they want to engage. So there's got to be a hybrid approach. The steel-handed, slam down the fist and say you've got to be in on Monday through Friday, I think is changing, and it may be for the better. With the context of everything that I say, still mentions that we still need to do our jobs. We still need to empower the individuals to provide and drive and achieve the business objectives.
Sure.
It may not be within 8 to 5, it may be different, but at the end of the day, we're still accountable, like you mentioned earlier, which is, I think, very key to the success of the leader in the future.
I think so. Keeping the leader on the straight and narrow, keeping the team member on the straight and narrow as well. I think it's very important to do it. And like I said, maybe it's probably even better for the leader. They can have dinner with their family and then do a couple hours after work or checking in with different employees. And I think that is important, making sure not to abdicate. And I've learned that lesson in my business as well, not to abdicate, 100% sales. I don't want to know about it or think about it. You do it. No, that's the wrong approach. Or advocating marketing or whatever. It's the wrong approach. You need to be involved and involved with your team members, with your employees, and not forget about them. Right? Okay, they're remote, they're home, they're good on their own. No, that you need to I think stay in frequent contact, checking in, making sure things are good. Because again, it's easy at the office to see if something's going wrong or if someone's upset or in a certain mood, or you've been looking down for the past week. Are you okay? At home, I think that's why quick Zoom chats or video chats, Microsoft Teams, whatever, are great versus a quick phone call is good too. But a team chat, you can very, very, very easily see you look like you're about to burn out or fry yourself. What do you need? What's going on?
Absolutely.
And those frequent check-ins as well. Walking in a week.
Yeah, absolutely. I also feel like we talked earlier about walking the walk, talking the talk. When the workforce was being modified with the pandemic, and people were forced to work from home, as companies started to come out of that, there's a decision that's being made whether or not they want to continue.
Sure.
And the leaders have the ability to say, we're going to work from home 3 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever the case may be. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the leaders at the top will do that. The company that I was working for at the time it was very interesting and very appealing to me. The leader at the top said, we're going to impose, work from home, and I am going to work from home. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to work from home 3 days a week. And that's a big deal for the top rated executive, a CEO of a large Fortune 500 organization. So that person is basically walking the walk. What that does to morale is it allows people to know it's okay. It's okay to work from home. The fear of missing out, visibility, whatever it might be, the leader his cell practicing those principles. And I think that goes a long way, and a long way from the aspect of following the leader.
Yeah.
Those values are changing. That person is allowing people to do their jobs in a different way than pre-pandemic.
And it's great. I love that because you're right. It's like, well, yeah, you can leave at 5, but then what's the general culture? Or yeah, you can work from home, but then you're right. Are people afraid to? So I think you're right. The leader making sure to again walk the talk in every facet, and it was interesting too. I think that yes, if people are congruent with it, they're like, okay, this leader is doing what he or she or they say, and you get a lot of respect, and then it makes it okay for the other people to do that too. And to your point, Tom, communicating that, having that communication go out, making sure to communicate that so that people even know. It was interesting. Every time we get a new leader, back in my several corporate careers, they'd fly up and they'd fly into town, or they'd have us, fly us down to the headquarters, and they'd say, okay, I'm the new leader here, the new CEO, the new whatever, and tell me what you need, what's going on, what's not working, and we'd have that conversation, and they'd go back to head office, and nothing would happen. We wouldn't be kept in touch. By the way, on your items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we spoke about here's what's going on, here's what I'm doing, here's what's happening, here's what we can't do. It was just crickets, nothing, no transparency, no vulnerability, crickets, and no follow up, no nothing. So whether it was true or not, what we made it mean was that they don't really care. It's just a song and dance. I think I'm here to exert their dominance. I'm the new leader, obey me type thing. What do you want? And I'll pretend to be interested in you, and going back, and we're not going to do anything. Or if we do, I'm not going to keep in the loop. And that killed morale. Totally killed morale.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, which is the ability to walk the walk, talk the talk, and like you said, present yourself in a vulnerable way. It still is resilient, still drives the business, but in a way that has some humility.
Yeah.
I think the aspect of the Zoom calls, the check-ins, the one-on-ones, and then even some offsites now where people can engage. It may not be in an office setting, but just to be able to get together and ask a person how they're doing, and mean it, and understand that person could be going through a ton of things right now with all the conditions that are going on in the world. So I think that the leader of today has to show some of that interest and some of that respect to that individual in order to retain talent as well.
Yeah, and top talent especially. You're right. Otherwise, they go somewhere else, right? They go somewhere else for the better pay, or for the flexibility, or for the better leader, or the transparent leader. And it was interesting just having seeing great leaders in my old careers that were very transparent and open. You come talk to them anytime, and their door was really open. If my door is always open, is it really, or is it as long as I'm not doing a million things, my door is open? So, but having those great leaders that did communicate and really fought for you and helped you. I was willing to stick around during tough times. Things got a little squirrely with the organization. I stuck around for this leader. He was amazing, and I really appreciate that about him. So to your point, be my message to people is be someone that people will want to stick around for during hard times, tough times. They'll go above and beyond for, which is amazing in helping you be more effective and lead more effectively, and of course having your team results do better. Be a leader that someone wants to stick around for. I think
it's a fantastic point. I mean, I've been accustomed to people who were more interested in the leadership than they were the position, and I think there is a generation out there right now that wants to be a part of an organization with top leaders, versus just be a part of an organization with a solid reputation where they're just making a ton of money.
Exactly.
And I think the aspect of servant leadership is becoming a little bit more popular. I'm hearing that quite a bit. People want that aspect of the leader at the top being more of a servant. Having a little more care, respect, individual. And I think all of those things are kind of changing the workforce in a way that's allowing people a little bit more flexibility. And then the leader has to be, receive that information and be respectful in a way that can drive the business and still be articulate.
Sure, not fair. I mean, as you said, like the theme of people will do what you do. So do your best, and if you want them a certain way, you need to be that way too. And if they're doing things that drive you nuts, or they're not doing certain things, look at yourself, because people are projecting for us. Okay, if they're not doing this, or working hard, or staying late, or whatever, well, how am I doing that? And really looking instead of
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I'm not doing that," that's not me. Really looking to see where maybe anywhere in your life you're not fully committing or fully giving your best, or you're half-assing it, or you're not walking the talk, or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's other areas that have definitely changed too, which is the aspect of managing hardship. In the
True.
past, it wasn't as potentially a family member that maybe there's a bereavement, etc. But today it's much different, much different. So managing the hardship, and like you mentioned, I think being your authentic self is really what gets people to follow, and your exercise of influence, being the vulnerable self that you are, being authentic, being truthful, gets people at a position where they understand where the company's headed, where they're going, and where the leadership is driving the organization.
Agreed. Agreed. I mean, even Mahatma Gandhi, he said, "Be the change you seek to see in the world," and I really think it's true. People do what you do. So again, be that change. What you want to see. Take responsibility for what you want to have and achieve, and what you want your teams to achieve. You don't have to do it or do it
Yeah.
all. But need to lead. Maybe you need to start it. Maybe you need to lead it. Maybe you need to make sure you take responsibility, even though they're doing the doing. It's that whole theme of take responsibility versus the blame or the finger pointing, or it's not me, it's them, or he or she, or the government, the economy, or the executives, or my team, or the people, or whatever. No, it's take responsibility, and I think that's a whole paradigm shift as well to make sure things work.
There's no question in my mind. Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool. This has been amazing. I have to have you back on again. So, effective leadership in the post pandemic era, old ways and new ways that work. I'm going to flash up here how people can reach you and connect to you as amazing leader yourself as well. Tom Arduino, everyone. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Like I said, we'll have to
Thank
have you
you.
back. We could continue this all day long.
Yeah, thank you so much. Incredibly passionate about leadership, and be more than happy to connect with anybody that's interested. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Amazing, amazing, Tom. Thank you. Amazing, guys. Thank you. Connect with Tom. Want more about leadership? Want to connect with him about leadership? This is Tom, and he's available on LinkedIn as well. There's Tom Arduino, or his email is there in the banner as well. Thanks for everything, everyone. Go have